Hi, everyone, and welcome to Val Talks Pets, the forum for pet parents and enthusiasts alike. Having been in the pet industry for over 10 years now, I'm going to share with you issues and questions that arise as I work with pet parents on a day-to-day basis. I am not a veterinarian, but I do have certifications in canine, feline, small animal, fish and herptile, and avian health and nutrition from the University of California, Davis Extension. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Val Talks Pets. In this episode, I want to explore the topic of exotic pet ownership. How many of you have heard of, or maybe you are that someone, who owns a bearded dragon, for example, or a ball python, or a sugar glider? These, and quite a few more, are considered exotic pets. The question I feel that needs to be asked is, should we take exotic animals and try to turn them into pets? Is there an issue of cruelty here? Well, let's have a look at exotic animals that are on the list that people have as pets and see what we can find out. First, I think we need to define what an exotic pet is. Exotic itself, according to Wikipedia, is of foreign origin or character, not native, introduced from abroad, but not fully naturalized or acclimatized. An exotic pet is relatively rare or unusual to keep, or is generally thought of as a wild species rather than as a domestic pet. Or any animal that is not native to the country where it is kept in captivity can be called an exotic, non-domesticated animal. Generally, these animals are not adapted to the climate and wild environment in the country where they are kept. Now, an actual exotic animal kept as a pet will differ from country to country. And there are some that are illegal to own either by country, province, city, or municipality. Let's look at the legal exotics you can own in Canada. Whether you should have these animals is a whole other question. And just because they are technically legal in the country doesn't mean your individual townships and counties will allow them. All right, believe it or not, you can own a capybara. Yes, these giant hamsters basically can be a pet. According to slice.ca, exotic pets we didn't know were legal to own in Canada, capybaras are native to South America and feed on grass and tree bark and have enormous teeth. Like his cousin the beaver, a capybara's teeth are constantly growing. I remember when 2 capybaras from a small zoo in Toronto escaped and went on the lam for quite a few weeks. They eventually caught them, but imagine the tree destruction they left behind. You can also own a muntjac deer. I have never heard of this animal. It looks sort of like a small goat with deer ears. They are native to South Asia, are affectionate, playful, and easy to train. They can even be taught to use a litter box, just like a cat. The muntjac deer makes a noise similar to a dog's bark. And because there are different species of muntjac deer, some will grow to just 10 pounds at full adult weight, while others can grow up to 90 pounds. Better make sure you know which one you are looking at. You may also own a serval. I have heard of this animal becoming pet-centered, but I think this one should really be left to its indigenous roots. A serval looks like a leopard, and as Slice.ca points out, they do have a temperament similar to a house cat. But, as Slice states, be forewarned that they require a lot of space in which to run around and are instinctual hunters. Pot-bellied pigs are also allowed. Now, here's one of those animals that, although legal by Canadian standards, you need to know your town bylaws. In my town, you cannot have a pot-bellied pig in town. You could have one in the outlying areas that are different smaller towns that are farms, etc. But in town specifically, no. Pot-bellied pigs were a bit of a fad at one time, and unfortunately, these creatures became the typical fallout of celebrity ownership and the aftermath of being a fad animal. As piglets, pot-bellies are super cute, but they grow, and they can grow up to 300 pounds. They can be destructive, and they eat a lot. As pot-bellies started to run out of favor due to their realistic nature, and I hate to say, many people's stupidity, many pigs ended up neglected, ill due to their owners not knowing how to care for them, euthanized for being inconvenient, and at a rescue, if lucky. Sugar gliders are another exotic that I actually did see once at a pet expo. As Slice explains, these tiny little marsupials, meaning they have a pouch, can be found in Australia, Indonesia, and New Guinea, and get their name from the fact that they suck sweet nectar out of fruits and sap from trees. Sugar gliders are prone to ride on treetops with a membrane linking their arms and legs that allow them to ride on air currents and glide through the air. Sugar gliders are also communal creatures, so it would be cruel to have just one, as these animals have been known to become forlorn and literally die of loneliness if not partnered with at least one or two others. To me, seeking out a sugar glider as a pet is ridiculous. Why would you take a little animal that is used to gliding through the trees, sucking nectar with its mates, and put it in a country that is cold 4 months of the year and more than likely stick it in a cage? Sugar gliders? Leave them be. Now, here's one you may not realize is an exotic. Hedgehogs. I encounter people that have hedgehogs. Hedgehogs, by rule, are not really interested in being handled or cuddled. They like to roll up into their spiky balls when they fear being handled. This is why all the info on hedgehogs always say you need to handle and socialize them early on to acclimatize them to people. To me, this just sounds like a small animal that doesn't want to be a pet. And all this handling, etc., is just trying to make it something that it isn't naturally. As for birds, personally, I don't like the idea of birds being caged and in a house. They fly, for heaven's sakes. On the allowed list of permitted animals is the hyacinth macaw. I can't believe this bird is allowed, as it is on the endangered species list. Immediately, this bird should not be allowed as a pet. Pygmy goats are allowed. They are small and can be housed in a good-sized fenced backyard, but you have to remember they are still goats. For this reason, again, although allowed, your individual bylaw may classify them as a farm animal. And as Slice points out, just because they are called pygmy, don't get fooled, because an adult could easily weigh up to 75 pounds. Wallabies are surprisingly on this list. Who on earth would bring a wallaby to Canada as a pet? These small kangaroo lookalikes are meant to wander and graze on grass. I would like to know who in Canada thought this animal could be on the list of animals someone could have as a pet. Miniature donkeys are actually animals I see every day going to and from town. Again, these guys may fall into the farm category, and for their own sake, they need to be in bigger spaces. A mini donkey can live from 25 to 35 years, so there is a big commitment here. For the last 11 or 12 years, I've been driving by one on my way to work. He's been in the same place all this time and has outlived 2 ponies so far. I laugh when I see him in the winter because the humans put a small horse blanket on him, and all you can see is his little hoof sticking out the bottom of the blanket about 6 inches. It's like a kid putting on their mom's dress. One is again one I have never heard of, and that is the fennec fox. These little foxes average only 1.5 to 3.5 pounds and come from North Africa. Slice says they are known for being as independent as a cat and as affectionate as dogs. They are also typical like foxes and will eat prey and plants, etc. Again, why bring an animal from North Africa to Canada? Head shake time. So, when it comes to animals you cannot own, things become gray. Exotic animal bylaws were actually delegated to individual municipalities in Ontario, for example. So this is why you would have to check your individual area. You cannot own a monkey, for example, in Toronto. There was quite a story a few years ago about the IKEA monkey. A woman went to her local IKEA and had her pet monkey in the car. Seeing as it was winter, he was clothed in a shearling jacket. While the woman went shopping, he found a way to get out and ventured to the store and started looking in the glass door, obviously trying to find his mum. Well, the owner ended up in court, and the monkey was taken away and put in a licensed rescue for primates. But the real issue here was that she was treating this monkey like a child. I know they are cute, but should we be anthropomorphizing what should be a wild animal that should be swinging from trees and cavorting with other monkey friends? And how did she get this monkey in the first place? Was he ripped from his mother's arms and forced to watch as poachers slayed her? Was she contributing to the horrendous exotic animal trade, making poachers rich and animals suffer? In the city of Toronto, although you may find an orphaned raccoon, you are not allowed to keep it. The only one who can do that has to have a proper license to be a rehabber or rescue. I know quite a few people who have told me they had a pet raccoon. Most times, however, as the raccoon aged and reached puberty, they became aggressive and a bit violent, so they were released to the wild. But again, did the domesticated raccoon have the skills to survive in the wild? As for reptiles, in Toronto, for example, their rules state that you cannot have a snake larger than 3 meters or a lizard larger than 2 meters. And of course, nothing venomous or poisonous. But that's pretty ambiguous. And again, individual municipalities have to be consulted about reptiles. Again, I don't get why we'd want to have a reptile that is used to being out slithering along and put it in a terrarium. So I looked at a few lists of pros and cons for owning an exotic pet. The pros were similar on the lists, saying that exotics provide a unique companionship, they have an educational value to learn about their care and behavior, and that there is a possibility of aiding in conservation efforts. Okay, a unique companionship means they are different from a traditional dog or cat. But what companionship is the person actually getting depends on the animal. If you have a pygmy goat out in the back, are you really interacting with it to the degree that it is a companion like a dog or cat that is in your home cuddling with you? Does someone actually get companionship watching something cooped up in a cage or terrarium? Even a hedgehog is nocturnal, so it is awake when you are not. As for educational value, I think that one is really flimsy. In today's world, access to information and virtual learning can easily teach anyone what they are seeking to learn about any animal. As for conservation, I think the scale probably tips more to the propagation of illegal wildlife than it does to conservation. As for the cons, there are quite a few. As set out by the exoticpets.com, these include suppressing the natural instincts of an out-of-place animal, contributing to stress. Many people just do not do their homework and get an exotic without really knowing how to house, feed, and care for it. In this case, many suffer terribly with health and mental issues solely because someone thought something was cute and didn't take into consideration the animal's welfare. There are health risks to the animals and to people. Sometimes an exotic can't tolerate climate or lack of their natural environment, especially food, and death can be a real outcome. Humans exposed to exotics out of their element can pose a risk of being aggressive or carrying harmful diseases. There is also the issue of ethics, where taking an animal out of its natural habitat just to be someone's entertainment is a horrible treatment of animals that should be allowed to share the planet. Plus, breeding in captivity can upset the ecosystem. Many exotics naturally spend time in groups, like I mentioned with sugar gliders. Forcing a communal animal into solitude with a human can lead to a horribly unhappy animal and possible death. And the worst is that if there is a market, you will find unethical people. The exotic trade business is cruel, inhumane, and beyond disgusting as to how these poor animals are trapped, traded, and exported. Animals have been found stuffed in suitcases, and birds stuffed in toilet rolls in suitcases, and well, it goes on and on. So, should exotics be allowed as pets? My opinion? No. My biggest concern is that the scale tips too far into the direction that someone sees something cute and wants it for that reason only. Once the care and costs get involved, and that the animal possibly grows out of the cuteness, the animal becomes a burden and often gets mistreated. I see this harvesting of the earth's wild animals for human entertainment very disturbing. One pros list I saw actually had on the list that it was cool to own an exotic. Are you kidding me? That's the reason? I'm sure there are quite a few people that really know their stuff about reptiles or other animals, but I really think they are probably in the minority. I think there are probably a lot more out there that just make a knee-jerk decision to acquire a sugar glider, for example, and really have no idea to care for it. Then it dies. I also think that the illegal trade will grow and grow and grow as unethical, cruel people capitalize on animal fads. I feel so sad for these animals. When it comes to exotic pets, there is a lot to know. Not only do you need to know the care and feeding of the animal beyond normal knowledge, you also need to know all the legalities as to whether you can have it or not. Plus, knowing exactly how this animal came to be available is one of the most important questions. An exotic pet needs to be considered very, very carefully with a good dose of reality thrown in, because as I say, knowing is caring. Thank you for listening to Val Talks Pets. Please remember to follow or subscribe to ensure that you never miss an episode. To really help the show and to make it easier for others to find, please rate and review each episode that you find interesting and helpful. And don't forget that you can also email me at val@valtalkspets.com with topics you would like me to address or with any questions you may have. Also, check out my website at valtalkspets.com and let me know what you think and how we can improve upon it. Thanks for caring.